Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So on today's video, we're going to be changing the dreaded spark plugs on the IS250. If you guys have never done this before, you need to change those Iridiums probably every 100 to 120,000 miles. But there's a big pain in the ass trying to get to 3 of them on the driver's side. So on today's video, I'll show you how to take everything apart, change them out, and torque them down so you don't have any issues in the future. So stay tuned. So with all my experience with counterfeit plugs, especially from Amazon and even from the dealer, I went ahead and ordered these from Lexus right here. These are OEM, they're in the newer boxes. Before I even started, I made sure that I opened them all up, checked them and compared them between each other, and just verified that they were real with all the little telltale signs of the counterfeit ones. The counterfeit ones have been really good these days, but there are plenty out there that aren't that great and the gaps are all wrong. So I verified the gaps, I verified the printing and the imprints on everything on here. I inspected the electrode and all the colors on here and made sure everything was good before I go ahead and put these in, even though I got them from the dealer. This is the same dealer in the past that accidentally sent me some fake ones during 2022 shortages, so I don't know what happened there, but they took care of it after I let them know those were fake. So one of the easiest ways to check is to make sure that this silver right here is not painted and there's not copper underneath. That's usually a telltale sign of counterfeit. If you scratch it with something metal and it ends up being silver, then you're good. You want to check the Iridium tip. It should be nice and sharp with a kind of bluish tint color, and then even the back tip here, it should be like a greenish tint that's not painted on. So those are the kind of the few telltale signs. Inspect the lettering and everything, make sure that's all good, and even the imprint on here and the code and all that, the HD or the 6H, the letter after Japan, that's usually like a batch code. Make sure those are all stamped really well. So for the IS250, to change it, there's 3 of them that you could change pretty easily on this side. There's one on the driver's side that you can sort of change easily without taking everything apart. And then there's 2 back here that are a pain in the ass. So we'll go ahead and take the cover off, take the plastics off, and I'll show you everything. One of the things with these clips right here, to take them off, the easiest way is just to press down on them. It actually releases it and then you pull it right up. So that's just something you want to do. If you have an 06, they don't use these easy clips, so you want to make sure you replace them all. You get these on Amazon for like $10 or $12 for a whole pack of them, and they're really a lifesaver. Even on the 06 and up that use these, they break a lot. I've replaced mine over the years as they break. So you go ahead and check out the links down in the description to Amazon to pick up a set of these so you can replace yours if you need to. First thing you want to do is take your intake tube off. You can disconnect it. There's 10mm here, there's 10mm up there, and then this clip right here for this hose, just slip that off and pretty much that. And then there's another hose, I believe, back here that's just not even clipped in, it's just hanging off of there on a bracket. Go ahead and pull that, and then you can pull the whole tube off. Once you do that, you'll have access to the 3 spark plugs on this side. The one that I was talking about on this side that you can access is right here. So this one's a little bit tight, but you can change it without taking off the intake manifold. You could undo this one, you can undo the bracket here, kind of move the wire side, and you can access that one. The other 2, you actually have to take the intake manifold off, and we'll go ahead and do that later on in the video. So that was pretty easy there. So to access this side, so right now you have access to all 3 of these, and the easiest way to take them apart is to unbolt the coil pack and just take it out. Don't even unplug the wires. You don't need to unplug the wires. So these are the wires right here. Most likely 99% of the time you're gonna end up breaking this clip right here. You see on that one on my last change out, I broke it and I zip tied it back together. But what I'm gonna do later on in this video, I'm gonna show you how to replace these. I have a whole set of these that I've ordered. So we can go ahead and replace those things by just popping the pins out and plugging in new ones. But this go around, what I do is I go ahead and just undo the 10mm here on all 3 of them. And then right here, there's a harness. You want to undo that one. So you need a deep socket to get to that. So once you do that, go ahead and just pull all 3 out with the harness. This one's a little bit harder. Plus, I've got this thing, so I could probably just go ahead and just pop this thing out. To do that, you just slide it back and then just, since I'm gonna replace this one later anyways, go ahead and just pull that out. But yeah, you don't want to damage your tip here as far as the rubber. You want to inspect that, make sure nothing's broken there. You want to check your grommet back here, make sure this thing's good too. The next thing you want to do is just want to break all your spark plugs loose with a spark plug socket and a ratchet. Once you break them loose, you can just shoot them off with your impact driver. So make sure you have the socket that has the rubber in it. This one, I think I lost it on the first one. Check the condition of your plugs, see how they look. Make sure the rubber stays in here. So I was getting a bunch of misfire codes, and I've had a previous video where I troubleshot these and I found out one of my plugs were actually defective. So I replaced it with one from Advanced Auto Parts, which was for sure a Denso real one. These I got about 7-8 years ago from Amazon, and they looked and appeared to be real. There was nothing about them that was counterfeit. I double checked them this go around just to make sure. All the printing on them looks the same. They're consistent. This is the one that's stamped ET. This one right here is stamped DR, which might have been one of the replacement ones, I'm not sure. And then this one's also stamped ET right there. So that's very consistent with the new ones we have over here. There's nothing about these that suggested that they're counterfeit, but I'm just getting random misfires right now coming off these cylinders. So I suspect it's these, because even though I moved the coil pack, the misfire stays there. When I move the plugs, they actually move. So I'm gonna go ahead and restart replacing these 3. Once you get it in there, you want to torque it to 18 foot-pounds. So to avoid damaging them, I just put them in with a magnetic tool just to guide it into the hole. Just slowly slip them in there. Magnetic tool doesn't release very well. And then what you want to do is you want to remove the rubber piece out of here, or have a socket without the rubber piece. So that way it doesn't get stuck in there. You just want to get in here and just hand spin it on. So you hand spin it on, I'm just going to turn it with a regular ratchet. And then I'll torque it after this. So there's a crush washer on here that you have to flatten. Once you're finished with that, go ahead and just put your coil packs back in. Go get these 2 hard ones that just press them in. Just make sure they're seated nicely into there. Back here too, the same. Just go ahead and seat them in there. Line up your 10mm holes. We have that last one right here that we unplugged. Go ahead and do that. Make sure your plug is in. Again, at the end of the video, I'll show you guys how to depin that and take care of that one. All right, once we do that, go ahead and put the intake back on, and we're good with this side. So this one, the easiest way to do it is just to undo the wire harness right here. I think these are the O2 sensor plugs right here, or something that's similar to that, but what you want to do is just go ahead and slide this thing out. This one, the black one you see, is already broken. So the other one I need to do is just this one right here. You want to find the release point on that and just undo it, or just undo the whole harness, so that way you can get it out of the way and get to the 10mm. So that harness doesn't really do much there. So the other option is to undo this bracket right here, which is a 10 and a 12mm that hold that bracket on. But the main reason we want to do that, so you can access the 10mm, and you can also get this thing out of the way so you can pull the coil pack out. For this one, it's easier just to release the harness plug right here for the actual thing. So easiest way I do is I lift this thing up and I slide it back instead of trying to push the button. It's less likely to break it. Once you do that, you just pull it straight back and you get it out of the way. Yeah. So this one, I might as well just undo this one. Undo that, because that harness is kind of a pain to get to. And then get the 12mm down here, and then you can just lift this whole thing out of the way. And then you can also access the bottom of this to pop this clip out of here. Go ahead, get the 12mm and go ahead and break it loose, and then screw it. Do that, just kind of lift this thing out of the way. You see, it's kind of hard, but what the main thing is trying to get it here. And you want to do is take a 10mm socket and you can push it and it'll release the pins on here. But yeah, once you do that, you get this thing out of the way. Do that, just move this thing and unplug the coil pack. I want to undo this plug right here just to free up some space. Then you got to do some turning just to get it out of the way. So once you do that, you get that out, and then we'll go ahead and take the socket. Make sure your rubber's back inside of here. Get that in there and do the same as the other side. We want to break this thing loose. These things get seized in there. So again, the one we took out, the tip looks pretty much like the other ones. And then this one's got ED as the marking on the end. Do the same, just kind of slowly release it. Don't let it drop too much where it can damage it by hitting the bottom. And then get the socket without the rubber in it. Once it's in there, we use the hand ratchet to make sure we get that washer down. Sure we verify the torque on here. We're good. Coil pack back in. Again, you got to kind of spin it, kind of get it cleared everything in here so you get it past all this. You got to rotate it past. In there, rotate it into place. Get our 10mm. So those were the easy ones. Now we have to do the hard one, which is the intake manifold and all that. I forgot that I put the intake back on, but I should have kept it off because you need that all off anyways when we do that intake manifold. But this is the biggest pain in the ass. Pretty much all the stuff on the top is easy. There's like one bolt back here behind that fuel line right there that hooks the intake manifold to the head. That's a big pain to get to if you have big hands. If you have small hands, you can get to it pretty easily. So that's really the hardest part of that part. So we'll go ahead and do that piece. So to take apart the intake manifold, you're basically gonna have to take apart all these little 10mm studs. I think there's 2 of them right here. There's a couple of Allen keys that you have to get throughout the intake manifold there. Get those off, make sure you get the right size so you don't strip those, because that's the most common issue that people have when they're trying to do this. Once you do that, you go ahead and unplug everything. You're probably gonna end up breaking this
one like I did last time. You have to unplug the throttle body. You have to actually unbolt the throttle body from the intake manifold because this thing is all connected with all the coolant lines. You want to leave the throttle body here and disconnect it from the rest of the intake manifold. There's a 12mm screw on the back of here, a nut right there that you want to go ahead and take off because there's a bracket that holds that side of it. And then on the other side, there's a really hard to reach, I believe, 10 or 12mm on the back side here. That's the most difficult bolt to get to on here, but it's not impossible. I mean, if you have small hands and a good ratchet, a small one, you should be able to get it. I got it last time and I actually put it back. A lot of people don't put it back. Other than that, you have to basically take apart this one. This is the fuel injection for the intake manifold. So it's just a little mister that sends fuel in here. What I don't recommend doing is unbolting the banjo. You can just do the two 10mm right here. You can slide that whole thing out and just kind of leave it over here. You may want to go ahead and just put that in a bag because it does smell like fuel. When you do that, just unhook the hoses, undo this one and try not to break that. And I think that's really it as far as things to take apart on here. Once you loosen it all, you kind of got to get it out of the way. There is a couple hoses for the PCV valve right here. I've got the catch can, so it kind of bypasses it, but there is a hose that goes to the back of the intake manifold that gets to that. So I know that's a lot of explaining to do right there, but I'll go ahead and start taking that apart and I'll show you guys along the way anything that you need to do, or I'll voice over it so you can actually see what I'm doing. So after we got everything apart, I was able to get those little clips right there. Those were kind of a pain in the ass, these little clips. Usually you get a 12mm in there, but I think the last time I kind of messed a few of them up, so it was a little bit harder to pop out, but I was able to get those out. I was able to get the 6 Allen keys and the 2 nuts off of the studs there, so that's pretty much good. Went ahead and unhooked the hoses here. I unhooked this hose to get more room to get there. So now we're gonna take the throttle body. So these are actually 10mm, and then that bracket on the back side is also a 10mm. So what you wanna do is just go ahead, get a gear wrench in there and loosen it, and then we can go ahead and get a ratchet or something in there to turn it and get it all the way out once we get that. And then go ahead and get the 4 10mm here so we can slide the throttle body out of the way so we can get the rest of the intake manifold. All right, so the last thing we gotta do right here is the 12mm, and that pretty much gets us this thing. So you gotta get something small. So I got this little 1/4" ratchet and socket here. I'm gonna go ahead, get right back here, kind of feel your way because you're gonna be working in here blind, and just kind of get in there, and then once you loosen it, you're gonna just have to turn it by hand. Just that's the only way you can really get it out of here. So I got this thing in here, but I just can't get any leverage on it. I didn't think I tightened it that much last time I did this, but apparently I did. Okay, there you go. So it broke. So now I just gotta get something in there to turn it by my fingers. Once you get a good handle, just ratchet this thing. Good thing I have this like 90 tooth little ratchet that turns really easily in here. So yeah, it's a 12, so it's gonna be pretty long compared to the other side, which is only a 10. Yeah, it's one of these, I can't believe I tightened it this much when I did it last time, but yeah, we'll go ahead and keep turning this till we get it out, and then the last thing we gotta do is these 2 10s right here, and this, and then I think the rest of it will come right off. Finally got that damn thing out. It's just this short ass bolt, but it's so tight that you basically got to turn it a million times to get it out, but we finally got it out, so ready to pretty much take the rest of it and slide it on off. Slide this off. This hose should just pull right off. Put that off to the side. This is the brake booster hose. Next we're gonna just go ahead and undo these two. This one's gonna require a gear wrench because it's in the way of the actual line. Slide the whole injector out. So you do it with this, and you basically, the injector is actually sealed up so you can't really release the fuel. I think one plug right here, hopefully I don't break anything. The rubber gets so much oil and grease in here because it looks like oil catches up into there. It pops the seal right out, so you just push that thing back into here. So there's another 12 millimeter right here that bolts it to the valve cover. So we'll go ahead and shoot that off. Gotta push the harness down a little bit right here to get to it. A little bit longer than the one on the back, but I think that's pretty much it. And yep, now I can move it. Remember, there's still a couple of clips here you want to pop off, and then that hose for the PCV valve. Yep. One of the other tricks, because these two studs are always a pain in the ass, if you have some E-Torx, you can just remove that, and then this helps basically slide out instead of trying to lift it past this thing, because right now you have to lift it all past that, then you have to pull it out. But for this, it should be fine because we don't have any clearance issues here. So I'll just pull it out and make sure I get the back things and everything attached to it before we get too far forward. Fuel hoses and everything are still attached back here with some clips. And then another harness back here that we want to pop out. Again, it's just a harness that's attached, so we gotta get underneath here and just pop it with a screwdriver or something. If we weren't really doing anything else other than changing the spark plugs, which we are on this, we're gonna be doing the walnut blasting. You can pretty much just slide it up like this and not really move anything else, but since I'm already in here, I have to basically vacuum everything up too, all the dust and everything. But yeah, I want to get into here, pop this guy back. Oh shit, broke that trap. Oh well, it's just a clip. Get this thing off. After we took it out, this is what the inside of the intake manifold, or the underside. You can see all that oil accumulation. Everything inside the intake runners where all the oil's coming down, all the moisture right here, that at least keeps all the O-rings nice and moisturized. But I'll go ahead and replace all these. Last time I didn't replace them because I had just gotten the recall done on the fuel line. When they took this thing apart, they might have replaced it, but even if they didn't, it's probably about time to replace it now at 130,000 miles. You can see the throttle body gasket right here. So there's a little spot right here you just pull off, and you pull the rubber and it takes the whole strainer off, and then you just put the new one on. One of the things we're going to go ahead and do is probably get a rag down there and just clean up all this old oil that's just built up in the intake manifold over the years. So once we take that intake manifold off, this is what this thing looks like. You can see all the oil that ends up getting into the intake manifold just because of the blow-by, and it just pools right there, and then it builds up right there at the edge right here before it enters the tube, and you can just see all that dirt and everything into there. But that's what ends up causing all that carbon on top of our valves, because There's no port injection on this engine, it's all direct injection, so all the oil that goes in here just ends up developing into carbon. I'll go ahead and take some pictures and zoom in, and you can kind of see what's inside each one of these holes and why we need to walnut blast this. In order to walnut blast, we're basically gonna go ahead and remove this plenum right here. There's bolts, 12mm bolts all around. There's some control wires right here for the actuators on this that we have to undo. This was that clip that I broke when I was taking it off, so right now basically it won't be able to mount underneath, but that's probably no big deal because it's just a little jumper harness that really doesn't go anywhere. So we'll go ahead and finish the last two over here. As far as this goes, I'll go ahead and just cut these old ones right here that I used the zip ties on, since I'm gonna go ahead and redo this thing right after this anyways. So we'll go ahead and cut these zip ties that I were just using. Seemed like the gray plugs aren't as brittle as the black ones. The ones on the two on the outside are gray, and then the ones in the middle are black. So kind of get that out of the way. So again, I've got about, what, 70,000, not even 60,000 miles on these. And this is what they look like. This last one was the last cylinder I took out. It's got a lot of discoloration and it looks like some seep through. So I don't know if maybe I didn't torque it down enough last time I did these and they vibrated loose, but that seemed like to be a problem with all my misfires and all the other spark plugs on this motor in the last couple years. So luckily we're in there now, and I'm gonna make sure I tighten these down and torque them to 18 foot-pounds and make sure this doesn't happen again. So after studying all 6 of the ones I just took out, I know all the ones that are ET were the ones I got or put in the first time, and then I had 1 ED in that batch, and then there was one I replaced on one of my videos because it was misfiring, so I just replaced that one just to test it, and that one has a DR, so that one's definitely a newer one I bought from Advanced Auto Parts. The other ones I had bought from Amazon, and they were Denso OEMs for sure, just because I checked them all out. What happened was the last 2 I took out, I just noticed the crush washers were not crushed all the way down versus the other 4. What happened was the other 4, after that first time when I discovered that one was loose, I went ahead and retorqued all 4 of those because I accessed those. These are the last 2 I couldn't access, so I never torqued them. So apparently I must not have torqued them, and I must have just turned them basically like a quarter turn tight after it got tight, and it wasn't seated all the way, and over time it ended up vibrating out. So I finally found my mistake from that last change out. As I mentioned earlier, all these broken harnesses and clips in right here, they're pretty easy to replace. And a little bit of a tip, if you guys ever end up breaking these, each one of them has their part number basically printed on the back of them. Like right here, you'll see some numbers on the back. Usually the digits on there's like 5 digits. That corresponds to the last 5 digits of the actual OEM part number. And with that, the beginning digits all start the same. So I'll post on the screen what they usually look like and what that means as far as looking for these and ordering these online. But like these things right here, the injector clips, these are very common, and you could get these for like 10 bucks for like a pack of 6 or 8 of them from Amazon. And they're gonna be much better than these broken ones, even though they're aftermarket. I don't know how long they'll last, but if they're anything like these OEMs only last maybe 5 to 6 years under the engine before they start breaking. The last time I changed these, I broke that, I broke this one right here, I broke the throttle body. So I'll go ahead and do all the swap outs and show you how easy it is to do it. So here's my box of connectors and everything that I collect. So the first numbers are always going to be 90980, and the last 5 digits right there are the number that's actually on. So here's the coil pack plugs right here. You can see the part number. It's going to be on the back side there, and it's going to be the 11885, I believe. But these were all the OEM ones. They came in a big old bag because I ordered like 12 of these things. I've been using a bunch of them on all the different vehicles I work on, especially on the Sienna, the Avalon, and even the GX. They all kind of use the same 4-pin plug here, so I've been swapping those as I break those. Right here is the throttle body plug, which is the 11858. So I've got that one right there. This one is the MAF sensor, so this is the mass airflow on the intake. Mine's not really necessarily broken, it's starting to be, but the back clip here on the sides broke, so the little L bracket on there doesn't fit right, so I'm replacing that one. This thing's the EGR on top of the intake manifold. It comes in white, but the one on there is black. And then this one is the broken one that's like the O2 sensor type plug that's right next to one of the spark plugs there that I broke. So this one's actually an aftermarket one I found on AliExpress, but I figured I'd try this out just to see how well it works. So this harness right here was for those last 2 that we just did. I just went ahead and popped it off the bracket so we can work on the new plugs on here. So this one right here is one of the coil pack plugs, and then that's the gray one I was talking about that never really breaks. It's the black one that breaks all the time right there. So I was looking at the part number on this. So this thing, the black one and the gray one, even though we know they're the same plug, the numbers on these are 12176 on both of them. Even the broken one I'm looking at is 12176, right? Well, the replacement ones I've gotten are all 11885. So that's odd that they changed the part number even though there's the exact same plug. So interesting enough, maybe they realized that these were defective and they updated the model number to a different plastic and a different supplier with a different part number. All right, so we'll go ahead right now. We've got the harness right here on the bench, and we're gonna go ahead and take it apart. So the easiest way is you always have to pull apart the white part down here down the center. All these broken pieces here. I could tell you that I can guarantee pretty much this thing's gonna deteriorate. You probably want to keep track of all your wires too, but if you're going to just put them in as you take them out, you shouldn't worry, but you definitely want to take a picture of this in case you mix up these wires for some reason. So let's see, when I pop that off, already deteriorated and all the plastic already broke inside of here. So I'm really not worried about using these tools right here. These are the pen picking tools. You can buy these on Amazon. They're like a few bucks. I use those when I'm working on harnesses, but for this one, they're pretty much gonna break, and then you can just yank them right out the back here pretty easily. If not, you could always just, just basically go in there. Everything's so brittle, it just pops right out. See? So I'll take this first one out once I get it cleared. I don't want to break any of the metal on here though. There's still something holding it. So yeah, same over here. You could leave the white end on here, that'll be fine. So just kind of make sure you have the same orientation. Get the first one in here, and you'll hear it click in if it goes in the right direction. So that's good right there, the first one. So I'll go ahead and do the next. Yeah, with these brittle ones, makes quick work of it by breaking everything out, and it's gonna be the case anytime you replace these things for being brittle. Almost every one I've ever done has been like this for taking it apart. When you gotta really be careful is when this thing's not brittle and you're just trying to salvage a connector and reuse it somewhere else. So pretty much got that all out. The last one goes into here. You gotta make sure you hear that click. And then once you hear that click, pretty much everything's in there, and you just push the white down and it locks it in place and you're done. Luckily on the IS250, the gray ones are pretty solid. You don't have really any issues with those, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Just replace this black one. I've got another black one on the other side I'm gonna replace off camera. Next thing I'm gonna do is this plug right here that broke on me right here. This is the plug that kind of jumpers into the main harness. So this one's the same plug as an O2 sensor. So there's two versions of the O2 sensor. So this one's one of the two versions. This is the other version of it, and that's why they kind of share the same one right here. So for this particular one, I do have an aftermarket version I got from AliExpress. The only thing I'm going to be using out of here is probably the white part and the gray part. It comes with the extra pens, so if you ever have to repen anything, it's in here. So I'm going to just save these pens for other projects because some of these pens might be useful on other harnesses and other plugs. The rubber, this one does have a rubber inside of it. It's probably a better quality, so I might keep that 18-year-old rubber. So on here, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna go ahead and see the edge here and just pop out the white. This piece is actually not brittle, surprisingly. The black part is brittle as hell though, so what you're gonna do is just break one at a time like we did the other one. Pull this out of the back. And then plug it into the new one. So we're gonna get the orientation. So this is gonna be, that's the orientation there. So we're gonna get that into the hole. Looks like, so it's in. It's one of the things, it doesn't click like an OEM plug, but that's because we got an aftermarket. So you're just gonna make sure that the thing clears and it clips in, but we're good on that one. So I'll go to the next. So once you get them all in there, you want to use this thing. So this thing came with a new one, but then the original one is pretty solid. So I might end up using that again just because I know it's OEM, and well, OEM doesn't mean anything on some of these. Especially 18, 19 years old. Yeah, it's molded slightly different, but pretty much got it in there. So we'll go ahead and plug it on the other side and see how it fits. A little bit of slight hiccups. So that aftermarket piece that I put in there, after I put it in, I saw it split right here, so it went brittle, but I was able to push the OEM piece right back into there, and it ended up lining perfectly. So we'll go ahead and use that now. All right, so we'll go ahead and test the black one, see if it fits. That's the one we just took off. Clicks right in. Heard the click. That's good. Go ahead, plug the other one that didn't break on us. That's good. Go ahead, pop it back into here where it goes into that clip, and pretty much it. So everything else plugs right in, and we're back in business on this side. So another thing I've learned from working on all the different engines and these plugs, so I guarantee you the cam position sensor, if you ever had to take that clip off, it's gonna break. The VVTi solenoids, which we have 4 of on this vehicle, we have 2 on each bank. If you ever take that plug off, that's guaranteed to break. So almost everything under here that's got a black plug, I guarantee you it will break, because I broke it on the GX, I broke it on the Sienna, the Avalon, anytime I touched any of those. So right now I've got still this thing to do. I'll go ahead and just do these off camera. I don't think you guys care if I do those or not. Same with this one. I'm gonna do it off camera, get that new one in there, and then the coil pack plug over there. So I just got done with this plug right here, which was the EGR plug. It came only in this white color as the replacement. Then right here, I just finished the throttle body plug. This thing was a pain because everything just basically fell apart inside and then broke basically in half, but I got everything out. It's weird. It looks like 4 of the plugs in here are a bare copper, and then 2 of them are actually like a silver, regular aluminum or whatever they use. So that's kind of odd for the colors here. I didn't even notice that. So I got that new plug in. See the old plug? This thing just disintegrated when I started picking at it and peeling it apart, but was able to get everything out in the same straight order, and we're able to get it all back in. And then this one's got that little white clip right there on the end here. You just pop it in there and lock that in place, and we're done. And then now I could actually clip it to that little elbow. So once you snap it back in, you can see it stays in nice and square again. Plug it back in, and we don't have that hanging off, pulling pressure on the wires and everything anymore. I already did this one, so that one's in there tight. Like I said earlier, the gray ones we don't have issues with, so those haven't broken, and I've actually plugged them and unplugged them and they work fine, so we're good there. Everything else I'm not really gonna touch. There was one plug that I broke, or I came loose right here. This is the 11149. I went ahead and ordered an aftermarket one because I needed it right away. I was lucky to find this one on Amazon, and I just ordered a replacement just to use for now. Here's that aftermarket plug I got for that one on the back side that I broke. It comes with the pigtails and some crimpers right there, but we're gonna go ahead and take this thing out using the little pen tool. Went over here, was going through all my plugs, and I found another one that was broken. The clip right here for the little fuel injector that goes into the manifold, so that one has been broken. Luckily I had one that I ordered for that one, and this one, the part number is going to be 12117. So right now we start reassembling everything. We put the new gaskets in the intake manifold, including the strainer for the throttle body. Then we go ahead and try to fit this on, try to make sure we clear the 2 studs and get everything in place. Make sure that you get your PVC hose and everything connected up so you can plug it up. On my car I have a catch can, so I have to go ahead and run that hose for that catch can all the way to the front, plus to the PCV valve. We'll go ahead and tighten all the Allen keys and 10 millimeters to 10 foot-pounds. And after that, we just want to get all the hoses and everything attached, including the 10 millimeters for the fuel injector. And then we're going to get the intake in and put everything back together. Hey guys, thanks for joining all the way to the end of this video on doing those spark plugs for the IS250. As you can see, big ass pain in the ass on those last 2 under the intake manifold. But if you're patient and you got all the right tools, you should be able to get it all. The biggest issue you're gonna have is breaking all those plugs and everything. So I guarantee you're gonna break some of those plugs when you take it apart. So go ahead and pick up extra ones so you can replace those plugs like I showed you in the video. I'll link all the parts and the part numbers down in the description if you need any of this stuff to do your project. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to stay on top of all my different DIY videos, especially on the IS250, the IS300, the Sienna, or whatever I'm working on in the garage. For all these projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.